In previous tutorials, I told you about how we can create participant sign up and everything. So after the admin is login, admin have to rights to create event number, event name with coordinator name, coordinator number, fee, venue, date, and etc. etc. So you can add your own things inside this. It depends on your scenario, your creation. So for this case, you need to create one HTML file. So you can create one servlet file directly, but simple case you can create one HTML file. So as I told you, as these are the event details and everything. So after the admin is login, so I created one page name as admin event page, basically, like for creating and accepting everything from the admin. So in this, no, this is, and this is admin event page, event details page, and inside this admin event page, what it shows event details and transaction details. So this is very simple. I created with links. So for the event details, I need to create one event detail which shows the create event link and view event link. So these are again the links. So for the create event link, as I told you, create e.html, I created one file. So this is very important step here. So for this purpose, what I created one form method. What is the form inside this is I already told you. Then I'm going to use one servlet name as add event. As you can see, add event here, and method is post again with event number, event name, coordinator number, coordinator name, everything, fee for registration, venue for event, date of event. So I'm considering this all as a string, not I'm considering anything. You can consider as some date for date field and as equal to that. So for that purpose, you need to change into the database connection and everything. So this is very simple case I'm choosing here. So this is just creating one form method inside HTML, and action is add event. So for the storing purpose, what I'm going to create, I'm going to create one package servlet inside the source packages. So as I told you, what is this package Java servlet? So similarly like that, we are going to create Java servlet. But before that, I'm going to tell you some methods in servlet interfaces, then JDBC connection, and etc. So in this create HTML, we just created one form method with add event. So before that, you need to create one separate table or database for add event also. I'm going to further tell you about that also. But I will add some images of creation of table and everything inside this. So before that, let's see what is the JDBC connection and etc. We already gone through how we can create the JDBC connection, but we don't know about the basic scenario behind this. So for this purpose, I'm going to tell you the basic scenario about JDBC connection. So as I told you, we have already gone through with get and post method in Java servlet. So these are the main methods inside the Java servlet, but we can use some other servlet interfaces also. Like servlet interfaces, what are the servlet interfaces basically? Object of servlet request is used to provide the client request information to servlets such as content type, content length, parameter names, values, header information, attribute. Means the information that users type on the HTML page or HTML scenario or HTML form, we can use servlet request for that. So like there are several different methods for servlet interfaces, like public string get parameter is one method, parameter values is one method. Enumeration with get parameter names method means it will give the parameter names for that purpose. Get length, then characters encoding, etc. etc. So there are too many methods already created. These are the by default methods, or we can say default method inside this. So this is all about the servlet request interfaces. So what is basically request dispatcher and these methods works, I will tell you later. But before that, let's see what is JDBC connection. So in JDBC, JDBC stands for Java Database Connectivity. JDBC is a Java API to connect and execute query related to the database. So JDBC is a very stable API. Since the database and Java are deployed, JDBC is very standard Java API we are going to use here. So for different databases, like MySQL has a different JDBC, then Oracle has different JDBC. For the deployment on the servers, PostgreSQL is also used, or different. Nowadays MongoDB is also used for that purpose. So they have some different JDBC connection, JDBC drivers we can say used. So what we are using OJDBC is Oracle JDBC API basically. So inside that Oracle JDBC Java API, the statements, SQL statements and related queries already written. So while just we are writing this, it will also use the JDBC connection. So it is Java AC standard edition part, and JDBC API uses JDBC drivers to connect the database. So now always remember there are 4 types of JDBC drivers. ODBC bridge drivers, which are basically we are using are the bridge connecting drivers. So as we are using localhost, we are using this. Native drivers are basically specified to the specific databases. So our case is Oracle database, but it's not a native driver, because these are some bridge drivers. Native driver means if you created some dedicated database or your different database on some storage, then it's a native driver. We are network protocol driver and thin driver we are going to use. So again, there are 2 types. Like we are also using thin driver also of Oracle, not only the bridge driver. We are also using the thin driver. Thin driver means it has some minimum requirements and some minimalistic or simple Java database connection. So we can use the Java JDBC API to access the tabular data stored in the relational databases. So we are going to use relational databases. Other than that, MongoDB is very advanced database which uses NoSQL and everything. So we are going to save, update, delete, fetch data from the database through the JDBC. So how the JDBC works actually? So this is JDBC API. This is our Java application. This is JDBC driver and database. So JDBC API. So through the Java application, we are accessing both JDBC driver for the database and JDBC API. So this is very simple. So for the JDBC of Oracle database, I already told you, we have to create one driver class first to access everything here. Then we have to always remember that is Oracle JDBC driver dot Oracle driver. Then our connection URL for the Oracle 10G database, you have to use this thing, localhost with that port number. Now remember this port number is always a C Oracle service name and everything. So you can check for that information, tnsnames.ora, that's a file inside the database file. You can always find these information if your port is different for the localhost. Username is very important. Default is system. I am going to use your default username. You can create your own user. You can give the password also. Before that, I already told you how you can change the port of database. So you have to execute this thing for the changing the port. But always remember, if you change the port, you have to see this file, tnsnames.ora file inside this to check your port number, to change the connection URL also. Other than that, you can change the Glassfish port. So for this project, I saw the error that your mostly the Glassfish server cannot be deployed because it's using same port. As Oracle is also using 8080 port and Glassfish is also using 8080 port. You have to change the either port, like for the Oracle database either or for the Glassfish server. So for changing the Glassfish server is very easy. Just go to that config file and change it. I already told you in the previous some lectures that how you can change this port to another port. So I am going to use 2002 port in Glassfish server. But before this, if you don't want to change that port, you can change this port also using this query, execute dbms, and this is set http. This is PLSQL query basically to 2002. You have to change this port. But again, remember, you have to change this into the connection URL also. So before that, you should know how you can create table and how you are inserting data, how you are fetching basic SQL basics things here. So this is all about the JDBC. So let us move how we can create the uh, form method, or how we can execute this form method. So let us see how we can see this. So we already created this part for the form method using create event HTML, and we are going to add event in the HTML page, or from the HTML page to the database. So simple method I'm going to use. First invoke all the libraries first, which is basically import java.io and all Java SQL and servlet libraries. Then public class add event HTTP servlet, which extends to that add event. So this is called as you can say we are extended to the HTML servlets class, or which is default method or default class. So I'm going to use here again public void do post. You can either use do get also here, but I'm using too many things, or I'm going to save too many things, and do get method will restrict me for the some time or some cases. So I'm going to here use do post method. Always remember you have to create some HTTP request and then HTTP response, servlet response, which throws IO or servlet exception. So you have to handle the exceptions also here. Then you have to create response set content time text.html. I told you the significance of this. I am again telling you, while you are writing some HTML tags inside Java, so what it will do, I want, if the event is added, I want to show the event added thing or event added line after all things. So what you are going to do, I'm going to invoke some tags here like h2, h3 inside the HTML. But while using these tags, it will show me the error like add event, or like inside that it will show for the full tag, not the error, but it's a visual bug we can see. So for that purpose, set content type is text or HTML. So Java will take care that this is the HTML tag, so represent on that HTML as a HTML page, or if it's a text, show it as a text page. So print writer, that for the response get writer. So for this purpose, now I'm going to fetching the data from the HTML page form, fetching data from HTML form. Again I'm telling, always remember these names and these names should be always same, these all things. Connection with database, again we already have seen for the login. Why we have to use the try? Because it it may give the some SQL error, so we have to handle that. So you can either specify this inside like this also, throws IO exception, servlet exception, comma SQL exception, but I don't want to explain everything. So this is using throws, it will not show me the proper error. So for the showing the proper error and for the proper event the error handling or exception handling, I'm going to use your try catch method. So class dot for name, creating class, then connection URL, string name, username, then connection driver manager to establish the connection. I will again comment this part also, establish connection. You can either put some out.println statement also here, that is system.out.println, that connection is successful and everything. But you have to check, always check the command prompt inside your IDE or your executing part. So I don't want to check everything again and again. So statement, I'm going to create one statement. So to the insert these into the event database that I have already created inside this. To insert this into the event database, what I am going to do, I'm going to execute query insert into event. What are the values? So I am going to insert these values. So I am putting A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7 to the this, and I am going to insert inside this. Similarly, like we are going to insert in our login page or sign up page for the participants. Similarly, like that, I'm going to use this A1, A2, A3, A4, A5 and A6, A7. I'm going to put. Always remember close this with semicolon. Then result statement query and all things include the database. I'm going to include this event added statement and it should remain on the same page. then system out dot println to print this to the command prompt that added to the database, committing that, because commit will end that part there, so it will not show the any anomaly there, and con dot close for the closing the connection. So that's it about how we can create this. In further case, I'm going to tell you how we can create transaction history and everything part, also what is the difference between include and forward. So let us see how we can create that part also.